On the 3rd of October 1946, a former female guard of Auschwitz was led out to a firing range for her execution. She had been proven to have been a barbaric woman who treated prisoners awfully. However, Elisabeth Haase is not as well known as other female guards such as Irma Grese. Grese, along with other young women such as Elisabeth Falkenrath, were condemned for their actions at the end of the war because of their role in sending people to their deaths inside of the deadliest concentration camp of the Third Reich. They were both led to the gallows for their executions inside of a prison at the end of the Second World War. But Elisabeth Haase is one of only a few female concentration camp guards who were executed by gunshot and by a firing squad for her actions, something which was usually reserved for military officers and soldiers. Welcome to the Untold Past. Today we look at the execution of the shot female torturer of Auschwitz, and to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Elisabeth Haase was born on the 24th of December 1917, and it's assumed that throughout her teenage years she was part of many of the youth groups for the Nazis. Many German girls joined the League of German Maidens, and this helped to indoctrinate them into the Nazi ideas and the policies. However, many of these young women would go on to serve later inside the deadly extermination factories, which became known as the concentration camps of the Third Reich. Elisabeth Haase was part of the SS retinue, and she was sent to train inside of concentration camps at Ravensbrück, like many women, and this was an all-female camp, which was known for its brutality. It was said of Ravensbrück that they didn't shoot the women. We were to die of misery, hunger, and exhaustion. When we arrived at Ravensbrück, it was the worst. The first thing I saw was a cart with all the dead piled on it, their arms and legs hanging out, and mouths and eyes wide open. They reduced us to nothing. We didn't even feel like we had the value of cattle. You worked and you died. She worked here for a number of years, but as the concentration camps expanded, many female guards were moved to different sites. At some point, Haase was moved from Ravensbrück to go and work inside of the subcamp known as Budi. This was a subcamp of Auschwitz, and there were different elements of the site, including a women's camp and also a women's penal colony for those who broke the rules, who were kept in very terrifying conditions. But at some point Elisabeth Haase was then moved to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where she worked inside of the women's camp, overseeing more female prisoners. The conditions that these women were kept in were brutal and barbaric, and whilst inside of Auschwitz there were a number of harrowing incidents that Haase got involved in. During one incident, she was accused of taking a small tin of sardines from a prisoner who was trying to smuggle this to her mother for her to survive, and regarding her actions it was said, it was the venomous SS woman Haase who triumphantly pulled the tin out. She was happy to deprive people of food, and she got involved in executions. Following the Sonderkommando revolt, there were 4 women who were executed, but one of them, Esther Wajblum, it was said was not killed by the gallows when she was cut down, and she was then taken to the camp's infirmary, where nurses tried to revive her. One witness claimed that Elisabeth Haase, the SS guard, walked in and then shot this woman dead. At some point, Elisabeth Haase also oversaw the penal colony inside of Auschwitz, a collection of female prisoners who were treated terribly, and these were rule breakers who were made to do the hardest of labour at double speed, and they were beaten constantly throughout the day. They were also deprived of food, and many of these women knew that their life inside the penal battalion would be short, as they would be killed by the serious conditions or by the guards who brutalised them. Haase was known for being a very cruel and sadistic woman, and she did fall pregnant whilst she was inside of Auschwitz, and she left briefly because of this at the end of 1944, months before the camp was liberated. But her reputation had gone before her, and many knew about her terrifying and barbaric crimes. It's believed that she also at some point became the head of the women's work detail, and that she remained in this post until she left. But at the end of the Second World War, Elisabeth Haase's crimes came to light, and she was then arrested by the Soviets in Germany. There were hunts for different war criminals, but then Haase was brought to trial for her actions, and little documentary record exists of what was said inside of her trial, but it's believed that a number of witnesses testified about her conduct inside of Auschwitz and her crimes. She was sentenced to death by shooting in 1946, and she would be executed a few weeks later, But what is strange is that she was to be shot by a Soviet military tribunal, and she may possibly have been treated like a member of the military in this. On the 3rd of October 1946, less than a month before she was sentenced to death, Elizabeth Hossa, the brutal guard of Auschwitz, was led into an execution range for her death. She was stood opposite a number of Soviet executioners who aimed their weapons at her, and within a number of minutes of her facing her firing squad, the order to fire was given, and the Soviets shot straight into the former horrific female guard. She was not executed by hanging like most female Nazi war criminals, and this may have been because she was condemned by the Soviets rather than other authorities, such as the Americans, Polish or British. Elizabeth Hossa was a brutal female guard who worked inside of the deadliest concentration camp of the Second World War, and she was summoned to Rudolf Hirsch's site of slaughter to oversee the women's camp and some of the most brutalised and terrorised prisoners. She was known for the way she treated those inmates, but at the end of the war she was tried for her actions, and like many other women and female guards who did manage to escape their fate. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.